Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening in this, pretty painful end to the year in the market. Santa is pretty much missing in action for what should have been essentially a Santa rally, but there's still a few days left, you never know. But yeah, I'll go over my thoughts, everything, give you what I think we can expect really moving into the rest of the week. Don't forget tomorrow is the market is closed tomorrow for New Year's, of course. And yeah, let's just overall discuss the chart. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts, etc., I do share my thoughts every single day in the markets, or rather in my membership section regarding the markets every day. Again, for just $3 a month, mainly on Tesla stock, of course, but sometimes other stocks as well when I see opportunities. So that link is down below in the description for the YouTube membership. Or for $5 a month, you get access to everything I just said, plus NVIDIA daily updates as well if you're interested. But jumping into a Tesla closing the day down again, 3.25% unfortunately, closing at 400 and we'll just say $4 per share, which obviously compared to the market is going to be a bit of an underperformance, right? Underperformance for sure compared to the market. So we're in a pretty peculiar spot here. Now, this might look really complex and confusing here because I have so many lines everywhere, but it's because I have the Fibonacci drawn out, which, I'll redraw just for the sake of, for the video. But let's go over what I personally think is happening next. So like I mentioned, we lost the channel, right? We lost this rising channel, and that's obviously bearish. And, we said one option could be that we get one little quick push up to essentially retest that breakdown, which again, around, high 430s, 440, something like that, right? Which would be a double kind of, which would coincide twice, essentially, as what I'm trying to say, with not only the rising channel breakdown retest, but this little bull flag that we're in, you can see they kind of both intersect over here. So that would have been a pretty nice double resistance, but we couldn't even get that. We pretty much just went straight down despite a little bit of a gap up we had in the morning. So moving forward, what does this actually mean overall, right? Well, like I said, there is, in my opinion, potentially still a little bit more weakness, but I do think Tesla is actually starting to, I don't think it's there yet, but I think it's overall, if I had to say, a little bit closer to a bottom than a top now. I do think that after this kind of sell-off that we've had for the past, 4 or so days, right? I mean, if you just count it from all the way back up here, right? Just literally 4 days ago, pretty much, we've been selling off about 14% in just about 4 days. That's a decent sell-off, right? That's a decent sell-off in 4 days. That's not too bad at all. So, I do think I don't think it's at the bottom yet. I think there's a bit more pain ahead, about 4% or so, which I'll explain. But like I said, I definitely think that there is, a slightly higher chance that it's closer to a bottom than to essentially a top. Again, that's my overall consensus right now. The daily RSI is starting to get close to oversold territory on my obviously aggressive RSI settings. And I personally believe the current sweet spot on Tesla is this, right around here. I think just a tiny bit lower. Again, pretty much the 380s. I believe the 380s personally is going to be pretty much that more or less sweet spot on Tesla stock. So let's see if that actually happens. We have deliveries coming out, I think pre-market on Thursday. Keep in mind that can absolutely influence things quite a bit. For Tesla, deliveries is pretty much like a mini earnings, if you will. So, absolutely can really go either way. It's definitely a big question mark. But, just strictly off the technicals, I personally believe the 380s as it stands right now, with this bull flag, with this market bias, does set up to be, a pretty powerful candidate really for, at the very least, a short-term bottom, right? And the ideal scenario for the bulls is, well, we're still arguably in a bull flag. So we have this massive move up and we are essentially zigzagging down. And I still want to see one more touch point, which would perfectly coincide with that market bias. Again, it could be even just 390, but like ideally somewhere in the 380s. That's kind of my overall sweet spot as it stands right now, where, we could potentially find that, pretty powerful bottom, at least temporarily, at least, for the short term, where again, the ideal scenario is we bounce from there, push it back up into the, 420s or so, something like that, and then break above this kind of, 425, 430-ish resistance point, which will be, of course, a resistance point for now, and then break out of the bull flag. And then I think, at the very least, we can make our way back up for, a potential double top at all-time highs at almost $500 per share, or breaking that, of course, will lead us, well past that overall level. So that's kind of my general thought process on Tesla right now. So that's why, again, I think it's closer to a bottom than a top. I think it's, it's getting there, but I'm not super confident it's there just yet. I would either just see some actual, confirmation, I guess, or I'd want to see it actually come down to where I feel more comfortable entering a position, which again will be the 380s roughly, right? So let's see. Again, it's not too far away, right? It's not too far away just from today's close, right? It's only going to be about, again, 3-4%, right? That's not too much, right? It's pretty much another day like today. And I think there's a damn good, argument to be made that the bottom is arguably in, because again, all those things I mentioned, plus the RSI will be oversold on the daily. And I think at the very least, we'll get a short-term bounce from that overall. So let's see how this plays out. If I see earnings come in and Tesla dips right into that, let's say pre-market or whatever the case may be to 380, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be pretty tempted. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pretty powerful reversal from there as well. So let's see how that plays out. That's my overall, analysis, I guess, and thoughts really moving forward on the daily chart. So that's, what I think personally will obviously happen moving forward. So weekly chart, obviously no point in looking at that. We still have, a little bit in the week left. The one thing I don't like, with that, all that being said, of course, with that one thing I don't like though on the monthly chart, again, it's a monthly chart. These things take, take time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But one thing I don't like on the monthly chart is the fact that we couldn't really close above all-time highs. Like we obviously made new all-time highs, but we couldn't close above all-time highs, or at least the previous all-time highs of 415. We closed the monthly candle below that with a pretty long wick at the top. So, not the most convincing thing. And especially when I see the RSI all the way up here, that's why I'm a little bit more overall hesitant, right? It is still, regardless of how you want to look at it, the stock is still pretty overextended. If I bring out, of course, the the Bollinger Bands, we are well beyond the top end of the Bollinger Band still on the monthly candle. Now, of course, this will take time just because, like I said, the daily chart could be potentially setting up a bullish, reversal soon-ish. Right, we can still get that, right? Because again, these are monthly candles, right? This takes a lot of time. Like we can still get quite a lot of fireworks on the daily chart before, let's say this monthly candle topping formation potentially even decides to, finally, mean something. So just keep that in mind, right? Just keep that in mind. It takes much longer. So don't put too much weight into that short term, especially. It takes time. These things take time, especially on the monthly candles. So keep that in mind. But the daily, I do think is setting up, looking pretty nicely, right? Especially, with a lot of these indicators I'm looking at right now. I'm liking the way it's looking, right? I'm liking the way it's looking. We are pretty much right in the middle of the Bollinger Bands. We are below the middle line. So, there is a little bit of weakness in that sense. We're below the, 21 EMA and the 8, or rather the 9 EMA. So, again, it's not perfect, right? That's why I'm not just jumping in all in right now on Tesla. I'd want to see either it come actually down to my main target, again, 380s, or actually get some confirmation. Or at the very least, you can even just wait for it to break out of this little bull flag, because, usually you get 3-4 touch points, and the 5th touch point you break out. But there are times where the bull flag actually does 7 touch points. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7th touch point is where you break out. So you could also just wait for that confirmation. There's many ways to play this, right? But that's why I'm not rushing into it. Deliveries are on Thursday. It's a big question mark. I have no idea how it's going to go. And in my opinion, if I enter it here, I believe I'm kind of gambling on it, right? It's pretty much a gamble. So that's why I'm not rushing into it, especially when, the longer time frames are still a little bit overextended for my liking. Again, the weeklies, less overextended, I will admit, looking a little bit better now, but still a little bit elevated for my liking. So that's why I'm personally just being a little bit on the more cautious end, right? That's what I was saying when it was all the way back up here as well. And obviously for a good reason, right? So anyway, that's my general consensus. But again, the daily chart does suggest to me the fact that I do think we are a little bit closer to a bottom, or probably even decently rather closer to a bottom than we are to a top. So if we see a dip coming up into 380s, don't get scared. Don't get scared, because that could be the opportunity, right? That could be that opportunity that, everyone's waiting for. So let's see, because I think the issue right now is actually everyone is waiting for 360s. I think everyone wants 360s. I don't think we'll get 360s. I think there's too many eyeballs on 360 right now. It's too obvious of a level. So I don't think we'll get to, quite down there yet, which is why I don't think the drop down, if we get another drop down even further, will be too crazy. Again, 3-4%. I don't think it'll be much more than that personally, because again, just too many eyeballs on here. I don't think we'll get that. And too many people want this thing to crash. I don't think it'll crash just yet. I actually do think that we most likely will bottom around this area. And I think there's a damn good chance we will push up higher. At the very least, come back up to retest or get damn close to retesting all-time highs, like maybe 460s even, right? So again, one step at a time. First, we want to figure out where the bottom is, figure out, if we're finally getting ready to bottom or not before we start, really truly projecting, the upside targets. But it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good as long as we bottom around 380 and not much lower. I think it's looking pretty solid. So yeah, another thing that kind of backs that up is the fact that, options flow. I did take a look at options flow just now, and towards the end of the day, some nice options flow actually came in on Tesla stock. You can see 1.1 million calls coming in pretty much, left and right. Some leaps coming in, 5.3 million leap coming in for 2027. But we're also getting these 1 million 1.1 million, 1.1 million, 1 million, 1.1 million, all of them for 410 strikes, some of them above the ask. And then for January 17th, that's just about over 2 weeks away. That's not too far out. So, arguably out of the money and, just 2 weeks out, just over 2 weeks out, that's not that far out. So that's pretty aggressive. That's pretty aggressive. I like to see that. That tells me someone knows something and they expect the overall reaction to the deliveries, not the initial reaction. The initial reaction might not matter. What matters is the overall reaction. There's fake outs. Clearly, someone with deep pockets expects the overall reaction to deliveries is a positive one. So let's see if they're right. That's pretty convincing. I like to see this nice bullish flow on Tesla towards the end of the day. That is pretty convincing. I do like to see that quite a bit. Let's see how that plays out moving forward. Tesla is unfortunately confirmed bearish flow for just 4 million. So really nothing to write home about. Of course, nothing major to say the least. But maybe they're looking at the same thing I'm looking, because they're clearly thinking that we're closer to a bottom than we are to a top as well, entering those kind of positions. And I have to agree. I think we are getting very close, if not potentially already at that sweet spot. But I personally want to see a tiny bit more of a drop before I get much more comfortable. Otherwise, I'll wait for a better confirmation. And that's just, again, my personal strategy, right? My personal strategy. But all in all, it's looking pretty decent. It's finally getting close. Maybe just one more push to the downside, but it's, I think, getting close. So let's see what the new year brings. Let's see what the rest of the week brings. Let's see what deliveries bring. But that's my current thought process moving forward. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday. Peace.